It was an honor to address all of you today, and it's an honor to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Greg Brannon. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Greg. He's a patriot and a practicing physician. He comes to us today as a firm believer in the United States Constitution, concerned citizen and a medical insider who understands the detrimental impact of this administration's sweeping healthcare reform act. We know many of you here today feel the same way, so please give a big Wake Forest welcome for Dr. Greg Brannon.
It's an honor to be here. I am no public speaker. Like you all, I have no problem doing it. I'm talking about my favorite topic, Jesus in America, my two favorite topics. I heard some thank yous, and I have to thank somebody that's very important besides my Savior, Jesus, which is the most important to me. I'm here with a very heavy heart. My little brother, who's actually a practicing attorney, and Constitution was his passion. Actually, we laid him to rest yesterday. Not here for that. I know where he's at. So I'm here because he got me going on the Constitution years ago. We were raised by a single mom in South Central Los Angeles, no father, and my mother raised us just to. This country had every opportunity because God gave us that blessing. He's left 3 little boys and a wife, and myself, I have 6 children. We live the American dream, as all you do. I am just one of you up here speaking. That's all. Anyone else can come here and talk. But I will talk about health care, but they took all my lines about the Constitution, but I'm going to repeat them. What got me going was 5 days before the election when Senator Obama then, at that time, said 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America. It ripped my heart. Why? Why are we going to fundamentally change the best country the world has ever seen? And I started studying this, and I know why now. We have 120 years of progressivism. It's that classical frog in the kettle. You don't get to having 1/6 the economy and the most important thing, the doctor-patient relationship, taken by the government overnight. It took time. Not because we were lazy, because we trusted. We trusted people when they take the oath to back the Constitution. That's correct, but we're going to now. We have the best reformation system in the world. Every 2 years we elect. There's no more words. There's no more actions. I'm actually, when I hear the Tea Party's angry, it's optimistic. We're the Ronald Reagans. We know in every other country this would be impossible. This would be impossible. It's not just impossible. It's going to happen here. It's probable. They all know it. I want to go over a couple things with health care. I read H.R. 3200 in the summertime. I've not read the other ones. That was very difficult. It took me a few weeks. But I don't understand why $10 billion of this health care for 16,000 IRS agents. You don't pay the fine. It's roughly $2,800 per individual, $9,000 per family. It's 5 years in jail. That's in the plan. Now, I don't read the final one. I may be wrong on that, but it was in the previous one. Let me go over the government's great health care numbers. 1965, they predicted Medicaid would be $268 million a year. In 1965, it was $1 billion. They missed it by 37-fold today. What if they're off in this $2 trillion deal? That's $64 trillion. Medicare is supposed to be $4 billion. They're off by 15-fold. I don't know when the government, when they're spending our money, they don't care. They don't care. To get involved, this whole idea of the doctor-patient relationship will stay there. I do know on page 148, 149, there's a protocol. Whatever the government has in your field, I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. They'll have a protocol that you must follow. We hear about the insurance companies. I'm no insurance person. I don't know that kind of stuff. But the number one agency that turns down medical fees and procedures is the Medicaid, Medicare. It's the government, not Blue Cross, not Blue Shield. I'm sure they do, but I don't know those numbers. But the idea of this healthcare, I don't want to get bogged in all these numbers over and over and over again. It comes down to one simple thing: individualism versus collectivism. That's the argument. It's very simple. Our founders are very simple. They knew what the answer was. The free exchange of ideas between you and me leads to prosperity and freedom. Any hindrance in that takes it away. That's Adam Smith, Wealth of the Nation, 1776. Our founders do that. Name one centralized government that got anything better. He talked about Ronald Reagan saying, well, one generation away. I have another generation. Joseph Stalin said, well, one generation from getting rid of religion. You don't teach the kids, it's gone the next one. That's why our children are so important. Progressive income tax, no inheritance tax, government controlling agriculture, business, transportation. That's in the Bill of Rights? No, it's the Communist Manifesto. I want to get back to what we believe in and hold them accountable. The Declaration of Independence is what, a page and a half? The Constitution, 14 pages? The IRS is 3.7 million words before this. The healthcare has 131 new agencies. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. But I do look in the mirror. It's my fault. I want to hold myself to a higher standard. Our founders, they did. They knew they were flesh. They knew they were human. That's why they put no power into one man. What about today? We had a guy, George Washington, was offered kingship and said no. How many would take it today? Because they know better. They're the elites. We have to get back to those kind of men and hold them accountable of us. But again, power comes from me to the local community, to the state, to the federal. We're consent of the governed. That's the big thing. They ask about consent. The government has to give our consent for them to do that. They reflect us. My little metaphor or analogy for healthcare is, here's what they've done so far in healthcare. Before, we had what's called capitalism, free trade, that built America. We had 130 years of free trade, business, capital. What happened? Prosperity. What happens? Charity. There were zero entitlements before 1933. Zero. What happened to the poor, the orphans, the widows? Churches, synagogues, families, neighborhoods. If I'm correct, Salvation Army, roughly 99% of the money gets to the recipients. Federal social spending, 13 cents. 13 cents. It just makes no sense to me. Why are we going to do that? My healthcare analogies, I love this one. Right now, what they've done over the last 50 years is they bind our feet, tied our hands, taped our mouth, and threw us in the water, said swim. Now they want to do is put rocks in our pockets and go swim further. I say, if you unbind our feet, untie our hands, untape our mouth, take the rocks off, we'll swim the oceans. It's work. It's out. What I'm asking all of us to do is, I'm going to fall, I'm human, is help pick me up. I'm asking the same for you. But the thing about our founders, we look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, they're one unit. I'm sure you guys, I'm talking to people who have read all this stuff, you know that. For 5 weeks in the Constitutional Convention in 1787, they argued back and forth. And Ben Franklin goes, wait a second, guys, I've been there before. I was there 12 years ago. We opened every session with prayer. We didn't do it this time. George Washington calls for 3 days of prayer. They came back, prayed, and they got on. And I do not like hearing the word democracy. We are a representative republic. A democracy is really simple. 2 wolves and a sheep vote what's for dinner. Okay? And what a republic is, the sheep being protected by the wolves. Whole different ballgame. Whole different ballgame. So I'm asking you guys to please do what our founders did. They had such faith in the divine. How else do you go after Great Britain? They had no fear. Joshua 1:9, my favorite Bible verse, guys. Look it up. I love it. No fear. So they had no fear. So that's why they pledged their life, their fortune, but most importantly, their sacred honor. I want to be that kind of man. I want us to be that kind of people. Then we will not have those kind of people locally, state, or federal telling us what we need about me. Again, I could talk all day. I just love this. Thank you so much. And again, they don't like us because we're smiling, we're happy, and we know we're going to win in November.